Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Security Solutions TV. And today I'm talking to Kerry Matre, Senior Director of Services and Security Solutions at Mandiant. Kerry, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
There's a lot going on in the world at the moment, and not the least of which is focused on cybersecurity and keeping people safe. And I think that that's sort of, a fairly common theme in the security world at the moment. So to give our viewers a little bit of background, perhaps you could start off by giving us a little bit of a background on Mandiant, what the company is, what the company does, and how they fit into that world.
Sure. So Mandiant is a cybersecurity company. We respond to the largest, most impactful breaches around the world. And beyond that, we do have nation state grade threat intelligence that we apply to all of the products. And now we've been acquired by Google. And so we are applying those there as well.
Okay, well, that's a big step. So what brings you to ANZ at this point in time? Is that part of that acquisition process, or is it a separate thing?
It's part of the Google Cloud and Mandiant coming together, but I'm actually here for a security roadshow that we're running in 6 different cities throughout Australia and New Zealand. And the topic is AI security.
Ah, okay, very timely. Well, I mean, obviously, one of the first questions that leaps to mind for a lot of people is, wow, if Google bought Mandiant, what is it that Mandiant does for Google?
We really bring the security background that we have, that intelligence expertise, the background, the frontline experience to Google Cloud. So we can protect customers, build into products, and automate.
Okay. So I guess one of the things that we're looking at is that, our region has become something of a target for cybersecurity, but the reality is it's not our region. The world is a target for cybersecurity at the moment. It's not just the Asia Pacific region. Everyone is seeing this. And from your perspective, as someone who's obviously good enough at what they do and trusted enough in what they do to come to the attention of a global entity like Google, what sort of patterns are you seeing globally that might give us some idea of why cybersecurity and organizations are vulnerable at present, and what we can do about it, really?
Yeah, I mean, patterns that we've seen have been, increasing threats for years, for a decade. The sophistication of attackers continues to go up. The ability to reach out and have automated tools for the attackers also lowers the bar for them to be able to deploy attacks against enterprises and governments. Now, what we are seeing is that there's different types of outcomes that the attackers are going for, whether it be cybercrime, whether it be nation states, espionage, or even just for fun and fame. The different types of attackers, different profiles we've seen, are contributing to an increase in attacks that we're seeing globally.
This is something that's been building for a long time. I mean, I think SANS came out back in 2015 and released a report at that stage saying that by 2020, with the growth in AI and cybersecurity and everything else that was going on, that we would be, I think, something in the order of 5 million cybersecurity experts short of industry needs by 2020. And I imagine, much like Moore's Law, that trend is just continuing to grow. We need people faster than we can actually produce them. According to a research report that Mandiant, or your organization, put out earlier this year, sorry, my teleprompter just died halfway through the middle of that sentence. So I'm going to go back to that. According to a research report that shared by Mandiant earlier this year in 2023, the average dwell time for a cyber criminal to be inside an organization's system before detection has dropped significantly over the last few years. Does this mean that we are winning the fight?
So it's interesting. I'm not sure I can go that far to say that we're absolutely winning the fight. But if we look at past numbers, 10 years ago, we were at a 229-day dwell time. Last year, in 2022, we've seen it drop all the way down to 16 days. So are we doing better? Yes, but why is more of the question. So there's a couple reasons. In M-Trends, we do not report on why this is, but there's a couple things that can contribute. So one is, better security, better controls are in place, better alerting, and then of course the people in the SOC actually knowing what to do with these alerts. Another thing that I believe impacts this is the better sharing of information, the availability of threat intelligence that really helps organizations understand their threat profile, as well as to respond to these attacks and notice these attacks quicker. And I think the third thing that affects this dwell time is really that adversary profile changing. So, like I said before, there's nation states, there's cyber criminals going after just money. So as those motivations change, I think that's changing what we're seeing in that dwell time.
It seems to me that a big piece in this whole discussion is the area in which you specialize, artificial intelligence, because there's long been this discussion around, will cybersecurity and cyber war eventually just be a war between, white hat, black hat AIs? Looking at the latest trends in technology, artificial intelligence is very much top of the discussion list. So from your perspective, will this be of benefit in the fight against cyber criminals moving forward? Because they can deploy tools, as you pointed out earlier. How will the good side of AI help, if at all?
Well, what's funny is, you mentioned in the future, the only thing to fight AI is going to be AI. Look, I'm not going to comment on what's going to happen in the future.
It all sounds very Terminator, doesn't it?
Right. Right. But what's happening right now is that I think the defenders actually have an advantage right now. That they have the defenders advantage. We're building AI into all of our processes, all of our technologies. For a long time we were just doing automation, but as we've seen, that has not been enough to really defend our organizations and supply our SOC analysts with the right tools. I think AI can change that, and we're seeing that already. The opposite side of that is that the adversaries also have access to this AI, and although we have not witnessed it in one of our incident response investigations to date, we probably will. And we don't know whether that's going to be a week from now, if it's going to be a month from now, a year from now. I think it'll be sooner than a year. But right now we have that defender's advantage, and we really need to, organizations need to jump on it. And I have spoken with organizations that said, we're not ready for this. And while you may not be ready, it's already here. And so organizations need to understand what they can do with AI right now to capitalize on that advantage.
I know we're going back and covering the same ground a little bit, but I think it's kind of worth delving a bit deeper into. Do you feel that from the antagonist point of view, AI will give the attackers more of an advantage, not necessarily over the defenders, but make cyber intrusions and cyber attacks more dangerous and perhaps more prolific moving forward?
I don't know what's going to happen in the long term, but what we have seen is, adversaries poking around with the use of AI for deepfakes, for phishing campaigns. We've seen this reported in the media already. So we are seeing that activity. We have not seen that cause major disruption at this point. But again, as an industry, as industries and governments, we need to stay ahead of the adversaries. And I do believe that, with Google, big companies working on this problem, we do have that head start.
So obviously in the world of innovation and evolution, there's always this concept that, standing still is effectively going backwards. So from the point of view of Mandiant, are your production development teams working on any major changes or updates at the moment? And if so, what does that sort of look like?
Well, as Google Cloud, we're building AI into everything that we do because we need to. Like I said, we need to stay ahead of those adversaries, and so we're going to continue to do that. Find different use cases to really reduce the threats that we're facing. Kind of, if there's a patient 0, make sure that we capture the attack then, so that there's not a patient 1, 2, 3, etc. Another thing that we look at a lot is the toil. We see security analysts burning out just because they're doing so many repetitive tasks. This is also a place where we're really focused. And then the third place, which you mentioned before, is the lack of resources. We just have that skills gap. And, already our analysts are using AI to kind of synthesize that threat intelligence. It really brings analysts that may not be as mature. It gives them the opportunity to kind of upskill and really perform at a higher level than they could previously. It's exciting.
Yeah, it is. And I think that's a really interesting point that you've touched on there, because whenever there's any sort of new innovation or upskill in technology or development in technology, the leading thinking seems to jump straight away towards panic of, oh, artificial intelligence is going to replace everyone's job. Just like everyone was worried that robots would replace everyone in the security industry and all the rest of it. But I mean, let's talk about that for a second, because it seems to me that artificial intelligence is more of a tool to help rationalize the use of resources by people doing the task rather than a replacement. Is that how you see it?
The way that I see it is just that it's going to allow people to do their jobs better, more efficiently. It's going to take people that don't have that experience and be able to be much more effective in their roles now, without waiting 10 years to gather that experience to be able to use. So we are already seeing that now. It's great.
And I imagine it's also about being able to see, predict, and pick up on trends much, much earlier than we wouldn't necessarily have been able to do so previously. So if we take, for example, and again, you're the expert in this, so correct me if I'm going up the wrong path with this, but if we look at zero trust within an organization, I'm small businesses like ours, we don't necessarily have the resources to have a full-time cybersecurity expert on board within our team. So when we're managing and monitoring packets of data between our printer and the air conditioner and our payment system for people who might be paying a subscription to watch our content online, I don't know when my printer is suddenly talking to an unauthorized IP in Russia somewhere. Like, I don't have the resources for that, but I imagine that's where AI is going to be able to turn around at a very, very affordable cost and go, hey, did you know that this is going on and you really need to lock this down?
It has the opportunity to bring that information to light. And, one of the things that we see with analysts all the time is there's too much information. They're not able to sift through it all. And I think what AI is going to do is kind of, summarize that information, categorize it. Right now, we're some of our analysts are using it for reverse engineering malware. It speeds up the processes that they're already doing. It allows them to use information that's already coming into the SOC that, sometimes would be ignored otherwise. So it's really going to just allow people to do more with the time that they have.
Last question before we close out, because I know that you've got a limited window. There has for a long time, and it boggles my mind that this still persists, there has for a long time been this view that, oh, we're only a small to medium-sized organization, people don't want to attack us. Help me understand the reality of that statement in the context of today's cyber environment.
It's a hard statement. I don't have anything that the attackers want. That is not true. What we've seen in the last 2 years of our M-Trends report is, supply chain attacks are a real thing. And oftentimes, the supply chain, they may not, the organization may not understand the impact that a breach of their organization could have on their enterprise customers. And so it's no longer just thinking about your own organization, but it's thinking about the entire supply chain. How could an attack on me be used on somebody else? How could an attack on one of my suppliers be used against me? And so it's not just you anymore.
And I think the easiest analogy that I can give for this kind of thing, and it was something that I discovered the other day. We were doing another piece for someone else who said, I can't believe I parked my car out the front of my house the other day and it was broken into within 30 seconds. How could they possibly know that my car was unlocked and get in that quickly? And someone else in the room pointed out, well, in modern cars, when the doors are unlocked, the mirrors are folded out. And when the doors are locked, the mirrors fold in. So it was immediately identifiable and recognizable as being unlocked. My point being, most cyber attacks that we're seeing these days aren't what we used to think, which is, script kids in hoodies sitting in their parents' basement, sitting there, hacking away, it's all automated. It's literally just drones flying up and down suburban streets looking for cars with the mirrors out. They're just coming in, as I understand it, looking in many cases for whatever they can get into to see what's there. So whether or not you actually have something worth stealing or not is irrelevant. Once they're in the system, they're in the system. Is that the case?
This speaks to the different profiles of the adversaries. Some are the opportunistic cyber criminals that are looking for the unlocked car, for example. Others are much more sophisticated, nation state attackers. And we've also published reports recently, I think a blog recently, about attackers just going after fame and fortune. So there's targeted attacks, there are attacks of just opportunity, and we have to deal with the whole range.
Well, look, Kerry, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. If people want to find out more about Mandiant, where do they go? Right
now, you can go to www.mandiant.com.
Excellent. And for those people who'd like to catch up with you, we hope that you have a great roadshow while you're here in Australia, and we look forward to chatting to you again next time.
Thank you.